Gets a bucket and a foul. Breakaway. Io.
Oh, meet me at the rim and don't be late.
Give me the hot sauce. Did you not get the memo? Derek Rose can go upstairs.
Oh, loose ball. Gimme. The steal. Right for the lead. Yeah.
Big time plays. Big time plays.
Gimme for the win. Go!
My God! I cannot believe this.
Improbable.
Hey everybody, time for a brand new edition of the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. Stacey King alongside, his phone going off as usual, looking for fines, automatically.
I didn't
all this time to get ready.
First of all, Merrick, I didn't even know we were on right now. I was checking my phone right now.
Yeah,
I was
sure
waiting for the countdown from Cisco. He only got to 2. We never got all the way down to the final countdown. My bad, America.
You know what we could do? We could start the show over or not, because you want to see what happens.
You want to see what happens behind the scenes. That's exactly right.
And Stacey was telling some stories that you can't tell on the air. So.
You got to be at a bar some night with some beer.
We should have a private channel, subscription only.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I said, like, being an announcer, I wish that someone would come up with a concept of, like, putting us on HBO or Showtime where we could actually
Stacey
curse.
After Dark.
Yeah, we could actually call a game. You call a game like you really want to call a game.
Yeah.
Like if someone took a bad shot, you could actually say, what the F was that? You know what I'm saying? You could actually curse, you dumb mother. You know what I'm saying? That would be fun.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That would be awesome. I hope someone comes up with that concept. And remember, I said it, so I want credit for it.
And Whispers is here. He moved a meeting to make sure he could be on the podcast. That's good work by you.
Came back in late last night from Grand Rapids. Got to
Wow.
make the show.
Oh, wow, that's dedication.
Grand Rapids, how long of a drive is that?
It was about 4.5 hours with the wonderful Chicago traffic.
Ooh.
It's only about a 2-hour drive, but
Yeah.
the traffic.
Just factor in trying to get through the city.
Yeah, the Borman Expressway.
How do you try to bypass that? Which way do you go?
You really can't.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
I've looked for other routes. You'd have
It's a
to
lonely ride, Mark.
You'd have to go like down to
It's a-
Columbus and come back.
It's a
up.
lonely ride, Mark. That and going up to like Western Illinois University.
Yeah.
That's a lonely ride.
That is a long way to go.
I was ready to crash into a
Construction
tree.
season on top
Yeah,
of
I was ready to crash into a tree, man. That was the most boring drive I've ever been. My son went to school there. I was just like, I told him, I said, hey, man, we're just going to have to Zoom. I'm not coming back up here, man. I'm not coming back up here. Sorry.
Well, speaking of people talking with words you can't say publicly, I think there were probably some conversations between the New York Knicks players and management before the decision was announced on Tuesday that Tom Thibodeau was being let go. Thibs got within 2 games of the NBA Finals. He led them to a great 5-year run, made the playoffs 4 times, 2 straight 50-win seasons, but apparently he wore out his welcome. And it was interesting, after they got eliminated, Jalen Brunson was asked directly, is Thibs the guy to lead you next year? And he kind of got angry at the questioner. But you wonder what was said behind closed doors if Thibs wore out his welcome with those players, because we know he's going to play his starters big minutes. He's very demanding, and it looked like, some guys really were tired of Thibs' approach.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, man. Thibs is my kind of coach.
Yeah.
I wish I would have been coached by Tom Thibodeau because you know why? Because Tom Thibodeau is a no-nonsense coach. He holds people accountable for their actions. He expects you to come in and put a hard day's work in. He doesn't care if you make $50 million or if you make $500,000. If the $500,000 guy is playing harder than the $50 million guy, he's going to play that guy.
Right.
And as a player, you appreciate that. If you look at the development that he's had with these players, you look at a Josh Hart, who is just a role player, a guy that could a jack of all trades but a master of none. Okay, he's turned him into a very, very good NBA player. You go get a Mikal Bridges from Brooklyn. He was struggling with his confidence, struggling with his shot. All of a sudden now he looks like, look back this year, he looks like the old Mikal Bridges. I think the big problem, and I don't put the whole blame on Karl Anthony Towns, but I thought Karl Anthony Towns in that series against Indiana, I thought there were some rumblings among the players about him not doing what he was supposed to do, his assignments. I remember in the very game 1 when they had the big lead and ended up losing it, there was a point in that game where they were on the bench and the camera was on the bench, and OG Anunoby went over to him and they had a heated discussion about a missed rotation that Cat was supposed to rotate to. Now, you got guys out there who have the defensive mindset and the defensive reputation of being defenders. Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Josh Hart. These guys go out there every night and they play their role and they play it to the hilt. They expect you to be the same way. If your assignment is to rotate on pass, they expect you to be there, because if I'm rotating to help someone and you don't help me, then my man scores, okay? So there's a problem there. So you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And I just think that Karl Anthony Towns' inability to play defense, and we just talked about this off air, and I love Brunson. Jalen's my guy. I love it. But defensively, both those guys were a liability. And I think this is the first time this season or during the playoffs where they were exposed. They weren't exposed in Boston. For whatever reason, they were able to do what they needed to do. But in this Indiana series, I thought they were exposed defensively. And I thought, Rick Carlisle had some schemes and put them in different situations where they're going to get attacked in the post. Jalen Brunson being a smaller guard on switches. They went right into the post on Siakam, and they took him into the post. And then I thought Halliburton, exploited Jalen a little bit. And I thought Jalen made that matchup mark personal instead of playing the way he's always played and just been the guy who leads the ship and gets everybody's shots and then takes over when he needs to take over. I thought he had a one-on-one battle, and I thought that took them out of their whole offensive set.
Well, the Knicks were terrible defensively. They couldn't guard a chair. And then offensively, Jalen Brunson won the award for top clutch player, fourth quarter scoring, and very well deserved. But in that series against Indiana, you mentioned the adjustments by Carlisle. In the fourth quarter, on need possessions, they constantly ran that horn set, where they send both big men out. That's supposed to be at the top of the key. They were out at half court, and they were all scrunched together, and Brunson's barely crossing half court by the 16 seconds, the 8-second violation. And then he's trying to dribble around. They're under 10 seconds, and they're still dribbling the ball around half court. They never got into anything.
No, and Thibs, listen, as good as Thibs is defensively, he really needs a higher in offense. If he ever goes back into coaching again, which he will because he's too good of a coach, he needs to hire an offensive guy that can get them in offensive sets. Because his offense, and you saw it here with Derrick Rose, get the ball to Derrick and move out the way. Right. Get the ball to Jimmy Butler and move out the way. There's no kind of creativity, And when you do this for 82 games, and then you go into a playoff situation and do the same things. In the playoffs, that's where you add wrinkles. That's where you change things. You go back to that Miami play-in game where the Bulls played Miami. They had played them a week earlier, okay? Let me tell you something. Their offense was totally different than what the Bulls expected when they came in that play-in game. They weren't running the same things. They were attacking the Bulls. They were attacking the Bulls on back cuts. They were doing things that we hadn't seen them do all year. But that's a sign of a really good coach who can make adjustments. Because if I'm coming in thinking, okay, New York's going to run pick and roll with Brunson, and we got to keep cat out the paint, boom, boom, and they've been doing this the whole year, and they still haven't made adjustments, we're preparing for that. We're preparing for that. But you look at Indiana. Indiana's come in. They've changed up the way they're playing. Siakam has become more of a go-to guy, which has been surprising to me because he should have been a go-to guy from the very get-go. But Halliburton is playing out of his mind right now with a lot of confidence. They believe in themselves. Obi Toppin had a great series. Their team, they had more players than the Knicks did. The Knicks only went 6 deep. And when you're going up against a team like Carlisle who throws 8 to 10 guys at you, 11 guys at you, and they all come in and contribute. T.J. McConnell comes in and sparks you off the bench with his defense and scoring. When T.J. McConnell gets 14 or 15, people go, well, he scored 14 or 15. Don't let that surprise you.
Right.
That kid can play. People look at him, man, and say, oh, he's a role player. He's on the bench. That kid on some bad teams in the NBA, he can start. On some bad teams in the NBA who need a point guard, he can start. He plays defense. He's not going to hurt you. He's going to pick up full court 94 feet, which I love to see. That's something missing in the NBA game, especially in the playoffs, where you go pick a guy up as soon as they take the ball out and work him. Because the reason why you do that, Mark, is to disrupt their timing on their plays, to not give them so many options in a 24-second shot clock. If I can walk the ball up the floor and get into my sets and say, okay, we're going to run 2 sets out of it and we're going to score, okay, in 24 seconds. I got all the time. There's no duress. I can do that. But if I'm picking you up full court, turning your guard, it's going to take you 8 seconds. You got to beat the 8-second clock to get over. Now, once you get over, you got 16 seconds to possibly run a play. Now you only got one option instead of 2 or 3. And so now you got to kind of rush and be under duress because of that full court pressure.
Let's talk more about Thibs. Obviously, you were there every day during his tenure as head coach of the Bulls. I covered him as well. And at the end, let's be honest, Pax and Gar couldn't wait to get rid of him. They were tired of his act. Reports about him basically locking himself in his office, not taking any input from John or Gar, and just my way or the highway. Didn't listen to anybody. 5 years with Chicago. what was it, 4 years in Minnesota and 5 years with the Knicks. It's the same pattern everywhere. I mean, the guy, as you said, he's a very good head coach. Nobody works harder than him. I mean, his life is basketball. He's got no personal life. I mean, all he cares about is basketball. But he burns himself out. He burns his players out. And a lot of people are wondering, well, how could you fire a guy that won 51 games and got you within 2 games of the finals? There's a personal aspect to all this, too.
Well, in New York, the situation is, Leon Rose, who's the guy who calls all the shots, is Thibodeau's former agent.
Right.
So he's a guy, he's an ally. I don't think this was a Leon Rose call. I think it was more Dolan call, the owner. Just listening to the fan base, listening to people, the talk radio, and then just decide to make a really rushed decision. What you have to understand if you're New York Knicks is, you're sitting there internally talking about this, and you're saying, okay, look, before Thibs was here, we haven't been to the Eastern Conference Finals in 25, almost 30 years, okay? We haven't been relevant as a basketball team in the last 15 years. We've had, I think, 6 coaches, before Thibs came, in the last, 12 years. So when you look at that and look what Thibs has done, he's made you relevant again. He's made you a Eastern Conference power, and you had a chance to get to the finals after you beat the Celtics. And you should have beaten Indiana on paper. You should have beat them. You got some good players. Thibs, he's going to do it his way, okay? Every coach is going, I'm going to go out on my shield. That's what Thibs said. This is all I know, hard work. I want players to work as hard as me. If I'm at the office 24 hours a day studying and going over things, trying to make this team better, I expect you as a player to do the same thing. Now, listen, there's players out there. There's not a player that's played for Thibs for multiple years has a bad thing to say about Thibs. You go to Derrick Rose, you go to Joakim Noah, Luol Deng, Jimmy Butler, you go to Jalen Brunson, you look at the guys he's playing with now, Josh Hart, they all love Thibs. Because you know why? They all have the same mentality. They're hard workers. They're guys that are going to put the time in and the effort to try to be great, because Thibs is trying to, in his way, he wants you to be great. He wants to maximize what you're doing, and that's why those players love him. And he's a no-nonsense guy. He's going to call out a superstar. Listen, Boozer had a hard time playing defense and rotating, but Boozer did what he was supposed to stay on that floor. Kyle Korver wasn't the greatest defensive player when Thibs got here. He made himself into a very viable defensive player where he said, hey, I'm not going to get beat off the dribble. I'm going to I'm going to move my feet. I'm going to give myself some separation so I don't get beat by quicker guys. And he made himself a viable contributor on these Bulls teams. But a lot of these guys, Mark, they don't like these kind of coaches. They don't want a coach that's going to get in their face and tell them what they don't want to hear. These guys, a lot of these guys want to make the money. They want the fame. They want the cars, the girls, the big houses. But they don't want, when it comes time, and they want to be a superstar. But when it's time to be a superstar and being accountable to be a superstar, you don't want to pass the buck. It's someone else's fault.
Well, the thing that bothers me about Thibs, and I enjoyed working with him. I had no problems with Thibs at all, but he hasn't learned from stop to stop to stop. You always got 3 or 4 of their starters are in the top 10 in minutes every year. Doesn't use his reserves as much as he should. I mean, he had guys on that bench. Landry Shamet could have played throughout the year. Precious Achua is a decent big that he could have used to give them more size up front. He refused to do it. The only 2 reserves he played were Mitchell Robinson and Deuce McBride, and everybody else just sat and watched. And, you look back at the Bulls, Joakim Noah's career was definitely shortened by all the abuse that he went through. Luol Deng almost died.
I mean, Derrick Rose knee injury doesn't happen if he's not in that game.
And Thibs never learned from any of that.
But I will say this, Mark. What he's done and how he's done things has worked. It's not pretty. A lot of people don't like it, but it's worked. He's taken teams that were below average teams and made them. It's kind of like how, I liken it to Thibs is like kind of like Doug Collins was. Doug Collins put so much into coaching. Like you watch old tapes of Doug coaching, he's drenched in sweat.
Yeah.
I mean, he puts his life and soul into being a good coach. And so then there comes a point where, okay, management says, okay, yeah, Doug wins 50 games. It's very similar to what happened to Thibs just now. Bulls getting ready to go on a championship run. Doug is there, nurtured that team, got that team to 50 games, got that team on the cusp of beating Detroit.
And they would have won titles with Doug.
And they would have won titles with Doug. Doug, I don't know how many titles they would have won with Doug, but Doug would have won some titles. I do believe that because he's that good of a coach. But management felt that he was burning, he was burning out, and he was also harder on the younger players like Scotty and Horace, and it was hurting their development. And they decided to go with Phil. So they felt like, okay, Doug took us as far as he could take us. Thank you. Now we need someone to take us from point, A to B. So that's how you go get Phil Jackson. The rest is history. But the problem with the Knicks is, who are you going to find in this league that's going to take you to a championship in the next level? You hear Udoka's name. You hear all these names coming up. But if your owner is not going to let the coach do his job and let the management, the office guys do their job to get the right players in there, it don't matter who's there. Because they've had 6 or 7 coaches in the last, 15 years, and none of them had success.
So that is the big question. Who can take the Knicks to that next step? And a lot of people immediately said, well, Mike Malone. Mike Malone won a championship in Denver a couple of years ago, but one of the reasons he was fired is that he was too rigid. He wouldn't play the younger guys. It was my way or the highway, and he was feuding with his general manager, Calvin Booth. They decided to fire both of those guys. Mike Malone was doing some good work with ESPN during the playoffs as a commentator. He's from the New York area. Do you think that Mike Malone is a good choice to lead that particular group of players?
Mike Malone's a very good coach. He's had success in Sacramento when given a chance to be a head coach, and you saw he was coach of the year in Denver, and he won a championship, But, again, he's old school. You got to get into this new era of basketball. You as a coach, you can have old school values, but you have to tweak them. And you have to bring them a little closer to today's generation.
People forget his dad, Brendan Malone, was an assistant on the Bad Boy Pistons.
Yeah, so, if you're not willing to change your approach, I'm not saying you got to change 100% of what you do, because you still want to hold players accountable. You still want to have rules. You still want to have guys know that you're in charge and you're going to do what I need you to do, or we're going to have a problem. So if you can do that and tweak some of the little things, that these players, talk to your players. Find out, what's going on with them. Get a feel for your players and what they're looking for in a coach. And then you kind of look, okay, I can do that, but I'm not going to compromise who I am as a coach. I'm not going to compromise my work ethic to your work ethic. If I'm coming in here every single day away from my family and busting my ass for this organization, I expect you to do the same thing. If you do those things, we're not going to have a problem. But if you don't do those things, you don't hustle, you don't play defense, you're late for meetings, you do all these things, that's not going to sit well with me.
Just sorry for Tim. He's just sitting over there listening to us pontificate. What do you think about the whole Thibodeau situation?
I think it's time for Stacey to become head coach of the Knicks. So way overdue. That's what I'm talking about.
No, listen. There's only one.
Only if you could represent him and get a percentage.
Hey.
Well, Mark, you and I have heard a lot of stuff behind the curtain about his detailed criticism of Thibs and what he would do to make it better. This is our guy right here. You're the guy to take it over.
Tim,
King of New York, Stacey King.
That's what I'm talking about. We got to do the podcast out of New York now. This is going to be
So,
awesome.
listen, man, I like my day job, man. I like my day job. A lot less stress. Listen,
I thought you were wearing the Knicks blue.
No.
I
I
thought you were sending a message.
No. Now listen, too much stress, man. New York, too much stress, man. Because listen, it's unrealistic in New York City. The expectations, like their fan base. And I told my friend Master Luke, who's a big New York Knicks fan, right? Shout out to Master Luke. He's on suicide watch right now because the Knicks went down. But I told him, I said, the basketball guys, the way your fans are, it's one thing for some of their fans, to be rooting for the team and they're excited and they're having fun. But some of the things that some of their fan base was doing was classless. Like, the Indiana guy who had the Indiana jersey, they attacked him and threw trash on him. And, that's uncalled for, bro. Like, there's no need. So I told Master Luke before the series started, the basketball guy's going to curse you. And they
got him.
They did. They did.
If we took a poll right now of the Bulls fans, would they take Thibs back in a second?
I don't know about that.
Just considering the latest playing games and not moving forward, I don't know. You might be surprised.
And you know what? And go back to Paxson had never had a problem with Thibs. It was Gar Forman and Thibs. That was the issue. There was a disconnect between those two. And a lot of times, listen, and you see this. Everybody wants credit. Everybody wants credit. Right. That's the problem when you start getting egos involved. That's why Jerry West never had to take credit for anybody or anything that his teams did, because everybody knew his fingerprints was all over it. He don't have to trumpet and say, I did this, I drafted this guy. He never had to do that stuff, okay? But a lot of these guys' egos get in the way. It's like, I'm not getting enough credit for putting this team together. I'm not getting enough credit for drafting this guy. I'm not getting enough credit because I'm coaching these guys. You guys won 20 games before I got here. Now you're winning 50. I'm not getting enough credit. it's put the egos aside, man. It's all about winning.
It's impossible.
It's put the egos to the side, all the BS to the side. At the end of the day, it's all about winning. We're trying to win championships. Who cares who gets the credit? Who cares? The organization wins. Organization wins.
Look at the two organizations in the finals. You can trace it all back to decisions made on trading Paul George.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's
6
weird,
degrees of Paul George.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at those two teams. You can trace
the
a lot
haul
of these
that
players
Oklahoma
back.
City got, they got SGA 5 first-round draft picks.
Yeah.
And most of all their key players are still in their rookie deal.
Yeah, it's insane the job that Sam Presti's
Yeah,
doing.
he should be executive every year.
Yeah.
Because he's like a banker. He's like Bezos for Amazon. He got everything. He don't have to use anybody. He don't need to go out and go get anybody. He doesn't have to trade for a superstar player. This team, Oklahoma City's team, is probably, I always thought they were a year early. I thought next year would be the year that they go on their little run. But after watching them this year, I'm like, man, and you think about it, all their guys are 25 or less. They don't have a veteran superstar player out there. These are a bunch of kids.
And if they come up short in these finals with all those draft picks, they could go out and make a big trade, whether it's Kevin Durant or Giannis. They could be only person I would see Mark to bring there that can make it different. I wouldn't even bring Kevin Durant back because everywhere Kevin Durant has been the last few years has been nothing but problems. It's not worth it. You got chemistry right now with these kids. You don't want to disrupt chemistry with bringing in a disgruntled star who may not be the star that he once was because Shai Gilgeous is getting all the attention and now, it's not my team and all. Man, leave those guys alone. Get you a guy, if you want to go out and get someone, get you a guy who's hungry. You don't necessarily need a superstar. You're already developing superstars. You're already cultivating superstars within your organization. You got Shai Gilgeous, a superstar. You got Williams, who's a superstar. Williams would be a number one guy on most teams in the NBA right now. He'd be your number one guy, and he's taking a number 2 role. Chet Holmgren is now recovered from that hip injury. He's your third superstar. So you got 3 kids that are under 25 years old that are at superstar level, right on the cusp of superstar level. Why go out and mess that up by bringing in some disgruntled veteran who wants to be me? It's all about me. And this team's got so much chemistry. Bulls Nation, America, if you watch this Oklahoma City team, how they interact with one another, it is refreshing to watch these guys. They actually pull for one another. They love being – it reminds me of when I was in college. It reminds you of a college team that's trying to play for a national championship. Nobody's getting paid. There was no NIL money. No one's getting paid. We're all doing it for the love of the university, the love of the game, and the name on that jersey. And when you watch Oklahoma City, I swear to God, it's just like a college team. And they're playing in a college environment. And the Pacers are similar to that, too. I mean, Miles Turner, in a practice earlier this week, said that it's a new era in the NBA. It's not about getting 2 or 3 superstars. He called it the power of friendship. The guys that actually get along, they have chemistry and pull for each other.
Yes.
So you got 2, as you said, smaller market teams that weren't built around high lottery picks or superstar free agents, have developed their way into a way that they can make it to the finals. Now you're seeing teams thinking, why not us? I just read something that the Orlando Magic are thinking about making 1 or 2 key moves. They're thinking, Tatum's out next year. Maybe we can win the championship next year.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at these young teams, look at Detroit. Detroit's got that same kind of Oklahoma City vibe where all those kids get along. There's no egos. Cade Cunningham is the leader. He's a quiet leader, leads by example. Jalen Duren. You get the kid back from Purdue that got hurt got his leg broke this year. The guard.
Ivy. Yeah.
Ivy. You get him back. Ivy. And you got Thompson there. Yeah. They got a good. You go from being the worst. You go from being the worst team that set a record for consecutive losses. The next year, you're the 6th seed in the playoffs. That is a huge jump because most times you don't jump that high. You normally go from we were the worst team in the league. Okay, we don't lose as many games, but we maybe we missed the playoffs this year. Yeah. Maybe we get to the play-in game. They jumped into a solid 6th spot and had chance to go up as high as 4 at one point. And
talking about coaches, how about J.B. Bickerstaff getting let go by Cleveland after a couple of really good seasons, goes to Detroit and immediately turns that thing around?
Because the problem with organizations is they have rabbit ears. They get to the point where they listen to the fans, they're listening to talk shows, and then they're basing a decision based off of what they're hearing and what they think the fans want. Okay, when you got a guy in your organization who comes to work every day, puts all the hours in, and he's developing your young players. I mean, you look at Mobley. If he's not developing, that's a reason to fire the guy. Okay. if Darius Garland is not developing, that's a reason. After having been there 2 or 3 years, and you're not seeing the development of those younger players, then you say, okay, we got to get someone here that can develop these and take these guys to the next level, because we feel, even though they're high draft picks, Mark, we feel like they're all-star caliber players, which they have turned out to be now. So that wasn't the case with Bickerstaff. It comes down to now patience. It's like, okay, we're winning games, but we want to be a championship team. This guy is not a sexy coach. He's not a guy like you go, oh, he's not a Pat Riley, wears the Armani suits. You know, he's not that kind of guy. He's a hard-working coach. And now you look at the job he's done in Detroit, and now you say, well, maybe he wasn't the problem in Cleveland. You know, maybe it was some other different things that we didn't know about. But then you bring in, you know, Kenny Atkinson, who had some success in Brooklyn. Then he gets the big three. He gets these guys, you know, Kyrie, James Harden, and then you get Kevin Durant, and that blows up in his face. But the year before, he had a bunch of guys that were on the scrap heap. You know, that guys that nobody wanted, a bunch of role players, and they played extremely well. And so you go out and get these superstars, and that whole team disintegrated when you brought that many guys and that many egos to the team. These teams now are starting to learn, because it's a copycat league. Everybody's going to try to do what Oklahoma City's doing. Everybody's going to try to do what Indiana's doing. Now, it's not about going out there getting superstars and trying to bring, let's go get Giannis. Let's go. Listen, you can go out there and get Giannis, but you're going to have to give up a lot of people to go get Giannis. So if you're Houston, you're going to have to give up someone to get Giannis. You're going to have to give up Thompson. You're going to have to give up Jalen Green. You have to give up maybe 3 of your main core pieces now to get Giannis. And is it really worth it when you've already won 50-plus games without him?
People say, well, he's only 30 and he's in his prime, but he's been playing professionally since he was 16. So there's a lot of tread worn on those tires.
And does he make you better? Yeah. Does he take you to that next level? Because the ultimate goal is to win the championship. Does he make you a championship team when you have to give up 3 of your key pieces?
Because, you know, as good as Giannis is, and obviously he carried Milwaukee to that championship in 21, can't shoot free throws. He's not a guy that you can just isolate the floor and go, get a shot for us. You know, he overpowers guys in transition and lobs and things like that. But he's not a guy you just say, get a shot for us, you know. There's
not too many guys, like I said, in this league. Like, you know, I would say, like, Luka would be one of those guys. Like, you know, if I would have gotten the Luka sweepstakes, especially Oklahoma City. I'm sure if they'd have called Oklahoma City, Presti would have gave up 10 first-round picks to bring him on the roster. But it's the small things, the small moves that Oklahoma City made. You know, getting Alex Caruso. You know, everybody's talking about the Alex Caruso trade. Oh, that was a hell of a trade for both teams, because Giddey worked out here, and he's proven to be what they thought he could be. And it worked out for Oklahoma City. I know AC was hurt most of the season, and people were crying. I had a lot of friends in Oklahoma City. Hey, man, this dude's always hurt. I said, hey, let me tell you something. When the game is on the line, when y'all start playing the games that matter, you're going to say, thank God we had this kid.
He's going to be big in these finals.
Yes, and he was big in the playoffs. Listen, for a guy 6'3", a guard, point guard size, guarding Jokic in the post, guarding Julius Randle in the post, like, that is an amazing. We've seen it here in Chicago. I mean, Billy played him at power forward to guard Giannis's and all these guys. So it doesn't surprise us who see AC play. You know, and I heard somebody on Twitter the other day was complaining about how much money he got. Oh, he got $80 million to average 5 points. Okay, he wasn't brought to Oklahoma City to score. They got scores. They got scores all up and down that roster. What they brought AC on there was someone who could solidify their defense. That's why they're the number 1 defensive team in the league. It's not just because of AC. It's that AC has the mindset to push guys. He was basically a defensive coach for us the last few years he was here. Defensive first, all defense first team and second team. So when you get a guy like that and you can add him to your roster and you didn't have to give up any draft picks for him.
Yeah, I was just scrolling here on Twitter. I saw something before the show started. There was a report that when he first came to Texas A&M, you know, he was this undervalued guy in high school, you know, not a high recruit. And people were saying, why did they bring this guy in? He's a trash player. You know, if he gets a scholarship, why didn't I get a scholarship? Yeah. I mean, you talk about the Alex Caruso story. We had him on the show a couple of years ago, just a great guest, and he talked about beating the odds. I mean, here's a guy that was always looked at as a guy that didn't belong. Yep. And now he's a highly, highly valued player around the league, signed a 4-year, $81 million contract, and he's going to be a key factor in the final.
Well, there's so many teams. Listen, everybody's not a superstar on a team. You can't have everybody. There's got to be role players. And his role, he's a superstar in his role. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're looking for. If you're Oklahoma City, we're saying, okay, we got killed by Luka last year. Okay, Luka ate us up. So we got to get a Luka stopper. They're not seeing that Luka's going to go to L.A. They're thinking Luka's still going to be in Dallas with Kyrie and that team. So they're planning for that. So now Luka gets traded to the Lakers. It's like, okay, we may not see the Lakers. Just based off of where we're going to seed, we may not see the Lakers. But we're going to see Anthony Edwards, possibly. We'll possibly see Denver and Jokic, and we're going to be ready for them. And they went out and got Hartenstein. That was another shrewd move that Sam Presti did, to go out and get Hartenstein from the Knicks. Mm-hmm. Boy, if you imagine if the Knicks still had Hartenstein, they might have beaten that. They might have beaten Indiana. And they undervalue role players. That's the problem with some of these teams and organizations in the NBA. They undervalue the importance of role players.
The cap got the Knicks on that one because of the way his contract was structured. They could only pay him a certain amount of a raise over his last year's salary. So they were kind of screwed with Hartenstein.
Well, that sounds like a personal problem. Okay, if that guy means that much to you,
no, it's a CBA thing.
Well, if that guy means something to you, you trade somebody and be able to get some money for the kid. You get rid of some guys. Get rid of some of those guys that are on the bench that are making $5 million.
It's kind of like with the Bulls right now. That Coby White is extension eligible, but because he's got such a team-friendly contract, he can only get extended over a certain percentage of what he made, and he and his agent no way they're going to do that. So that means Coby White will get to unrestricted free agency next year, and there's nothing the Bulls can do about it.
Listen, that's why, if you're the Bulls, you have to look at all options, because if he gets to unrestricted free agency and now you lost control, you don't have control of that now. He could say, you know what, I'm out of here. I'm going, even if I got less money, I'm going somewhere else.
That's a story to watch, fans, because if they give Josh Giddey $30 million, let's say, a year for this year, and Kobe's asking for $40, that's a lot of money for your starting backcourt. So they're going to have some decisions.
That's $70 million.
Yeah.
Listen. I know this is the going rate. I know it is, but I don't know if I'm going to invest $70 million.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I think in this league you can find guards. There's a ton of guards out there. There's a ton of shooting guards. I don't know if I can invest. And I'd have to ask myself this. I'd have to, if you're the Bulls or if you're any team that has a player that, is this a guy that you envision that can come out every single night and get you 25 every night? Is he going to come every single night?
Well, he's the number
stretches.
one option now, too.
Not stretches. Not stretches where you play 10 games, 12 games. It's an 82-game season. I need to know, if I'm going to pay you this kind of money, I need to know as a staff and as an organization, is this a guy that we believe that can come out every single, whether you like Zach or not, whether you like Zach's game or not, Zach and DeMar were those guys that you knew every single night they had a possibility of giving you 25 or more every single night. Now, they lacked on the defensive end. Yeah, we get that. But as far as scoring, elite scorers, those guys could come out every single night and get you 25 or 30. Do we believe that Coby is that guy? Can Coby we've seen it in stretches. We've seen it throughout his whole career where he goes on these tears where he'll have 10, 12 games where he's just mind-blowing. And then all of a sudden, he'll disappear, and he'll come back down to earth a little bit, and there'll be like 6 games of kind of like, okay? So you have to ask yourself, when you're investing this kind of money in someone, and I like Coby. I think Coby, listen, I've always said, you heard me from very get-go, Coby was a scoring guard. Right. I've always said this. I took heat from people. I got DM from people. Like, oh, man, you don't know Kobe's a point guard. Kobe's a scoring guard, and you're seeing this now. So whatever the scoring guard rate is at his age group, it's going to be interesting to see. Like, I like to know who makes that type of money, who makes $40 million that's in his draft class or that are close to him.
Yeah, but the guys get extended at ridiculous amounts. The cap goes up every year, and guys keep wanting more and more. Emmanuel Quickly is making like $35 million a year, and to me, he's just he's a good player. To me, he's more of a sixth man kind of guy. So, Coby and his reps are going to be asking, $40 million. If he comes back with another season averages 22, 23 a game, he's going to want to be on that high end of the guard pace.
This is me. This is me as an armchair point guard, okay? I don't have no dog in the fight whatsoever. If I'm a general manager, my first question is, I'm going down and saying, where does this particular player fit on every team in the NBA? Where would he rank? So I say, okay, let's just use Coby because we're talking about Coby White. Let's say Coby White's playing for the Lakers. What option is he?
Third.
Okay. If Coby, I'm just going playoff teams right now. If Coby White's playing in Denver, what option is he?
Second or third.
Okay. Oklahoma City.
Third.
Okay. So I can go down the list and see where he would fit, even on a bad team. You put him on Atlanta Hawks team. What option is he?
Yeah, definitely behind Young and maybe Jalen Johnson.
I would have Trey number one. I'd have the kid Dyson Daniels. I'd have him up there, and I would say Coby be a 3 or 4 on that team.
Yeah, I mean, you look around the league and guys that are scoring guards that average around 20, they are fairly replaceable.
That's my point.
But you want
Mark.
you want a guy that can impact the game on both ends.
That's my point. That's what I'm saying is, like, if you're a front office person and you're making these decisions, and you have to look at your player and you have to objectively look at it. It's like, okay, is this guy worth $40 million? Is he honestly worth $40 million every single night? Yeah, we know he can score and all this other stuff, but consistently score every single night. Consistently carry that mantle, put on your back, and say, every single night, like death and taxes, we know he's showing up.
Well, that gets back to the whole superstar argument. Everybody's trying to label guys superstars. Halliburton's a superstar. Jalen Brunson's a superstar. In my opinion, there's 5 or 6 superstars in the league, and the rest of these guys are all good players, but they have their flaws, and they probably are replaceable at a certain pay scale. You don't want to pay them
they're
max
superstars, Mark.
And
They're superstars, and then they're stars.
Right.
It's a big difference, okay? Superstars are the elite guys in this league, okay? And really, those are the guys that if you said – if I said to you, Mark, let's do a pay scale. Let's do levels, okay? Who would you say name the players you would think that should be the $50 million players? Like
the highest of
the highest, the top of the point of the pyramid.
Well, you take Jokic, certainly.
Jokic,
SGA, Giannis, Luka. Where would you after that?
Okay,
I think it drops after
okay,
that.
so America. Here's my point. Mark knows basketball. He knows the game, following the game for years. Good mind for basketball. He named 4 guys and struggled after 4. You had to think, and I guarantee you, everybody. I could name you like 7, 8 off the top of the dome.
Steph Curry, Tatum,
and those guys are at the end of their career, though.
Yeah.
See, that's another thing you have to factor in. But let's just say, forget the end of the career. Let's just say we're going based off of who they are in the league right now. Okay, so you got LeBron. I would throw Luka there. I would throw Tatum. I would throw Steph Curry. I throw Jokic, Giannis. That's 6 right there.
What about Anthony?
I say he's on the cusp. There's another level after them. He's on that next level. Okay, so that's 6 right there. I would probably throw Kyrie. Kyrie's on that list. Anthony Davis. So that's like 9 right there. Okay.
Donovan in there? He played this year?
He's right there too. He's right there with Anthony. They're like 1 foot over. That's who they are right now. They're on the cusp of getting there. But that's 9 right there. If Embiid is healthy, and he's playing more than 40 games a season, you would throw Embiid up there. There's only like a handful of guys that if they had a pay scale in the NBA and said, we're basing the $50 million player here, the 40, the 30, the 20, okay? And you would fall in these little tier things. Doesn't mean you're going to stay there. I mean, you can advance every year. I mean, you can outplay your contract. But there's only like a handful of guys that you can name off the. And America, I urge you to sit at home after watching this show to put your mind through a test and say, who would you pay $50 million a year? What are the $50 million players a year?
But now that's become $60 or $70 million because as the cap goes up every year.
Yeah,
you got guys already that have $60 million a year on their contracts.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. But listen, my biggest point in all this is listen, if you're getting paid that type of money, you got to show up every night. You got to be the man every night because I'm paying you $60 million to be the man. I'm paying you to put the franchise on your back. Like I was telling my friend today, when you look at Cat and you look at Brunson, they had some difficult. They stretched. They struggled in some of that series against Indiana. Okay, they're the 2 best players on the Knicks. Okay, the 2 best players on your team have to play at a high level every single night, win or lose. They got to carry that load. I can't expect Josh Hart. I can expect Josh Hart a few games, have some good games. Mikal Bridges has some solid games here and there. OG Anunoby, a few games here and there. I can't expect them every single night to play at an elite level because that's not who they are as players. But Cat, who's an all-star, Jalen Brunson, who's an all-star, those two guys are my two best players. They have to show up. That's like saying Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen in the Bulls championship run don't show up. If they don't show up to play at an elite level, the Bulls don't win. I don't care who we got on our squad. If those two guys don't show up to play every single playoff game, we have no shot. If Michael struggles and Scottie struggles, Bulls are losing. We're going to be competitive, but we're going to lose those games because our two best players who take all the shots, who are expected to carry this franchise, struggle, we're going to struggle. That's why you got to be very careful who you label superstars. That's why you got to be very careful who you give all this money to, because you giving some guys all this money and they don't have the mindset to carry a team. They carry the team when everything is good. When it's bad and they lose a game, it's someone else's fault. You know, you never heard Michael Jordan or Kobe get up on the pulpit talking after a game when they lost. It was somebody else's fault. Well, my team didn't do this. We didn't have enough players. How many times you've heard certain people say that? You know, these guys say that in this era. They blame everybody, and you can't beat a man when everything is going good, and then when you lose, you don't want to be the man. I'm going to pass the buck to you. Mark, you're the man tonight. You're the man tonight. I don't want to be the man tonight. Go ahead. You talk to the press. That's a bunch of BS, man.
Hey, we got more basketball to talk about, but first, let's tell you about one of our great sponsors, our buddy Jeff Vukovich. When it comes to being treated like royalty, reach out to Jeff Vukovich. He'll take care of all your insurance needs, auto, home, and business. You can contact him at jeffvuk.com. That's jeffvuk.com. Nationwide agent at 847-825-4783. And the best jingle of the business, Stacey.
Nationwide is on your side.
Let's talk a little bit more about the Bulls. Interesting honor for Modest Buzelis. We know that he's a charismatic kid. He wants to kind of do a little bit of everything. He's going to be involved in a special program where some rookie players are going to be kind of taking over social media during the finals. And we know Modest. He got a lot of energy. He wants to be involved in everything. And it's going to be fun to see him as a player correspondent for the upcoming final.
Well, I mean, he's the future face of this franchise, you know, whether people want to accept it or not. He's not ready right now, but he is the future of this franchise. And, you know, seeing him out there and seeing him being available and letting people get the chance to know him on a different level other than just as a basketball player is awesome for him. You know, I just don't want him to lose sight of what's important, because a lot of times these young players get all this stuff coming their way, the commercials and all this stuff. You forget that, you know, the reason why you're in this position because you're a hooper. So let's not forget that. Let's make sure we come back in year 2. You know, we're coming back to start. We're coming back to be in the starting lineup. We're coming back to, you know, build on what we ended on our rookie year. And we're gonna be a force. And that's what I expect him to come back this year as.
Another Bulls topic, reports that Lonzo Ball is going to be available for trade. And I think part of that is tied in with the Bulls really like Trey Jones, who's going to be an unrestricted free agent. And they've got so many guards on the roster. I don't think you're going to see Lonzo and Trey Jones both back. So if they go hard after Trey Jones, I think they're going to be looking to move Lonzo. What do you think?
Oh, man. It's tough, man. Because I like both these guys. Yeah. But you can't keep – we got too many guards as it is. Yeah. You know, you got to decide. That's why I don't want to be in AK and Mark's, you know, in their position, man, because you like all these guys. You like all the guards. Io is really big for us. Coby, you know, Josh – Lonzo, Trey, Kevin Huerter. You definitely got to keep your Kevin Huerter. You need shooters. Yeah. Okay, that put him over on the side. He's non-touchable for me.
And he's really almost like a small forward.
Yes, for this group. And he can play, and he can handle the ball as a point guard, as a big point guard. There's versatility is so important to a team. So he's a versatile piece. But you know, it's going to be tough. They paid Lonzo, which is a tradable contract. You know, I had a buddy call me the other day about. You know, from Sacramento, he was doing the radio. Kyle Draper has asked me, do I think that Lonzo would be a good pickup for them? I said, man, y'all need any guard.
Yeah, he'd be.
But
good
he'd be a great. I said, what people don't know about Zoe, man, you know, first of all, coming back from that knee injury was amazing. It was amazing. And his injuries last year were not related to knees. Mm-hmm. You know, it was a wrist injury that hampered him, you know, early in the season, and it just got worse as the season went along. And you hated that for him because he spent so much time trying to get back and
his
do
minutes
a level.
were going up to the point where he was really being a contributor.
And he, I mean, you know, and when he left, when he missed out, it would have been nice to have him in the play-in game. And it would have been nice to have Trey Jones in the play-in game. I thought Trey Jones coming here showed a lot. I think people appreciated his game a lot more than when it was appreciated in San Antonio. Because we don't get to see, them out a lot. We didn't see San Antonio a lot because they're not one of the elite teams, and plus they're out west. But when we got him here, you got an appreciation that he's a really, really smart point guard. He's not going to hurt you. He defends. He can get to the basket. He can shoot the ball. And I thought him getting hurt really hurt us too because we were on a roll when he was healthy.
Yeah, so a lot of tough decisions for the Bulls coming up. The draft is 3 weeks away. One of the names that's really flying up is this tall point guard from Brigham Young, Yegor Demon. 6'8". He's a lot like Josh Giddey, a guy that can really handle the ball, can make plays, a good shot creator, but he's not a good shooter.
Yeah, shooting's overrated, man. I mean, right? Shooting for young players, it's overrated. I mean, if you're looking at a kid coming in 18, 19 years old, you can say that about anybody. You said that about Modest. That's the reason why Modest dropped in the draft is because everybody was scared that he would never be able to shoot. Well, he turned out to be a pretty decent shooter, and he's on the upswing. So don't get caught up in this. This kid right here, I've seen him play. He is like Tony Kukoc. Seriously. He reminds you of Tony Kukoc.
6'9".
And his numbers don't look like, oh wow, he's playing with a bunch of older guys, first of all. And so when you look at his numbers, yeah, you're not overwhelmed by them, but right now the Bulls are looking at talent. It's not so much you're bringing him in to be a point guard. He could be a small forward, a wing forward. You pair him with Modest and Josh Giddey, and now you got three guys that can handle the ball and make plays, playmakers on the perimeter. Now, I think the biggest question with him is, if he's not a point guard, is he comfortable playing other positions? Right. Because he's a point guard at Brigham Young, and is he prepared to say, hey, look, we got a point guard, a 6'8" point guard here, but you can play point guard at some points when Josh is off the floor, but we're going to look at you primarily as a small forward, a point forward, like a Scottie Pippen, Tony Kukoc type of mold. That's what I would say. That's what I would probably think that they would have him in that role if they drafted this kid. But the Bulls are in a position right now, you don't know what you're going to get where they're going to draft. Someone could fall. Someone who could, like we saw Modest last year. Somebody could be a top 5 pick. Something happens in a workout.
Speaking of which, you know who's falling like a rock?
Who?
Our guy Derek Queen. Because he tested poorly at the combine.
Well,
didn't show the vertical jump, couldn't run around the cones, and all of a sudden he's falling like a rock.
Let me tell you something. Go back and look at footage of Ilnyckj. When we saw Ilnyckj, they showed pictures of Ilnyckj, and he looked like he weighed 400 pounds.
Yeah.
And when they drafted him, people were like, wow, that was a weight. Why did they get him? Now look at him.
Because when we did the show, you and I both said he won't be there.
Yeah, he won't. I'm surprised. But the NBA is, listen, man. The NBA, they overthink things too much. Yeah. Okay? Forget the eye test. We don't play running around cones. We're not playing with our shoes off. Okay? When they
I always get a kick out of those measurements. Barefoot, he's only
barefoot. He's listed at 6'10" at North Carolina State, but with shoes off, he's 6'7". Okay, last time I never saw anybody out there. I never saw anybody out there with bare feet out there. Okay, so scrap that. You get so caught up in the measurements and all this other stuff. What about the eye test? Yeah. What about the productivity he had at school? What about the kid being able to show you that he can pass, he can handle the ball, he can rebound, he can score, and he's not afraid of the moment. Hit one of the biggest shots in the school history to send their team to the next round, and they could have easily got beat, but he stepped up and hit a big shot. I get so sick and tired of hearing people. You go back to last year.
But it's groupthink. All these scouts get together and they're like, "Oh, this guy can't do this. That guy can't do that." But it goes all around the league.
But most scouts can't do it either.
Right.
Most scouts have never played, and you're sitting there passing judgment on a kid that you've seen play every single night. His whole high school, he played on the same team Cooper Flagg played on. That whole team is going to be first-round picks. That whole Monteverde school that they went to in high school.
Yeah, but his shuttle run was bad.
Okay, you know what? Let me go out there and we can pick some NBA player right now and let's go test their shuttle run.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's get Jokic out there. Let's go see what his shuttle run is. Okay, let's go get some of those guys and
Don't
just see
trip
what that.
over the cone. You're gonna fall.
Man, I'm so sick and tired of that, Mark. Oh, he didn't eat a sandwich fast enough. Oh, you know, he got back to the bathroom too slow. He was supposed to be back in 2 minutes. It took him 2 minutes and 35 seconds. Well, maybe he had a personal reason why he missed the bathroom. Maybe he had to do courtesy flush. I don't know.
Well, don't forget
That's like Shaq on Inside the NBA where he had to run off the set. Man, he was hurting.
Hey, man. Hey, Zach might have had a Hershey squirt, boy. I don't know. He was clenching them cheeks tight.
That suit might be gone.
Jerry Nadler.
Yeah.
I got to get out of here.
I gotta go.
Hey, did you see their farewell, the last show of Inside the NBA?
No, I didn't see it.
No, it was good. You know, Ernie's the best. Ernie Johnson,
Yeah.
you know, he summed up.
Is he going with them to ESPN?
Yeah. I mean, they're not going to actually move anywhere. They're going to do the show out of Atlanta. It's just going to run on a different network. You know, so nothing's really going to change with Inside the NBA. It's just in saying goodbye to all the people that had worked on that show over the years, you know, in terms of
I did see that.
and
When they were in
different
like the
staff.
little lunchroom or something?
Yeah, I mean, Ernie's the best. And it is an era in basketball that, you know, goes back to 1989, I believe, when TNT first got rights. And it's going to be sad to see them not a part of it. You know, now you see all these streamers coming in. You know, it's going to be on Prime as one of the main carriers. And it's, you know, for people that used to having their cable package, being able to watch NBA anywhere, now you got to show out those additional dollars to be able to watch the games you want to watch.
Well, and you know what? They're still going to have a following no matter where they go. You just hope that ESPN doesn't mess them up. Let them do what they do. Let them do what they've been doing. The banter. I think the biggest thing is like, because, you know, ESPN has to pay all these big celebrities, these personalities, a lot of money. Stephen A. Smith, Pat McAfee, and they're running a lot of commercials. They're running a lot of commercials that have to pay the bills. And so, you know, when you watch the NBA Finals, you know, or you watch the playoffs, you know, when they're doing the pre and post game or the post game show or the pregame show, you know, there's a time limit on it. It's like a short pregame, short halftime. You know, people want to hear what people have to say, especially if it's Charles and, you know, Kenny and Shaq and Ernie. They tune in for that. People tune in to just listen to them, you know, than to watch the game, you know. So you want to keep that same formula. Don't put any brackets on, because Charles Barkley's gonna say what he want to say. He already called Kendrick Perkins an idiot. Yeah. He's already called the idiots over at ESPN. Yeah. That's why I was like, this is gonna be an interesting marriage, because he's already letting everybody know that y'all not gonna be able to control me.
Hey, we kind of got waylaid as we were going over our Knicks coaching search. We talked about Mike Malone. Some of the other names that Stacey put together, you got Mike Brown, who was let go by the Sacramento Kings. Taylor Jenkins, who was fired late in the year by the Memphis Grizzlies, a good young coach. Johnny Bryant, who is an assistant in New York now, right under Thibs. Mark Jackson, who was a coach with Golden State and has never got another opportunity. The one that's really interesting is Jeff Van Gundy, who was so popular as coach of the Knicks, and now he's an assistant with Ty Lue with the Los Angeles Clippers. Do you think they'd actually consider bringing Van Gundy back?
Maybe. Because he was pretty popular with the fan base. Here's the now. Listen, and I think, you know, the coaches, Mike Malone, I think Taylor Jenkins is a good coach. The coach, Johnny Bryant, he's with Cleveland. He's an associate head coach with Cleveland. They just hired the kid Ott, who's an assistant coach in Phoenix. Yeah. So both those names under Kenny Atkins were hot commodities. So, you know, Bryant's the last one of the two. But here's a name they need to look at. I'm tired of guys getting retread. I'm tired of retreads. Give my man Sam Cassell a call.
Yeah, he's never had a
Give Sam Cassell a call, man. If you want to have that same effect that you got out of, you know, Udoka, you know, that kind of guy, former player who relates to the players, who can develop guys. He's been a top assistant on all these teams. He's been with Doc Rivers. He's been with Udoka. He's with the guy in Boston, Missoula. He's been on Missoula's staff. So he's been on some great staffs. It's his time. If you're listening out there, NBA, who needs a coach, listen, I know you always want experience and all that, but it's proven you get some young guys out there that these young kids can respect, that remember them as players, that can teach the game, as a point guard can teach the game. You know, go out there and get him. And if you really want to throw a curveball, go get Rondo. Go get Rajon Rondo. If you really want to shake things up and go off the grid, go get Rondo. Interview Rondo and see what his mind is. Because I guarantee you, a lot of people would love to see him as a coach.
Do you think it's going to be a precondition that whoever gets the job is going to have to keep Rick Brunson, Jalen's dad, as an assistant?
I was really surprised that they weren't pushing Rick to be the head coach.
You don't hear much.
I was really surprised that didn't happen because Jalen being the star player there can say, "Look, I want my dad to be the head coach." He could easily walk in there and say
he took
that.
less money on his extension.
Yes, and so I thought that would be a possibility. I don't know if Rick really wants to be a head coach. I think Rick likes the role that he's in. He's a good friend, and I think he likes being an assistant. I don't think it's like, I'm not saying he doesn't want to be a head coach at some point, but I don't think he wants to be a head coach under these circumstances, coming in behind Thibs, Thibs gave him his job and gave him opportunity. I don't think he wants that job that way because.
You think he'll be on the staff though, no matter what?
Yeah, I think so. Because he played for the Knicks, and Jalen Brunson's there, and if there's one guy, and that's one guy that can get to Jalen Brunson and get him to and get him to understand what they're trying to do, is his dad. His dad could be hard on him. His dad could yell at him. His dad could tell him things that maybe a coach Thibs wouldn't do. And Jalen will respond. And so, to that marriage is awesome. It's awesome having him there. So I like I said, if you really want to hit some home runs, Sam Cassell. I'm telling you, you heard it from me first. Sam Cassell should be on somebody's list, and he's not on anybody's list, but he should be. He should get a chance now. And if you really want to get off the grid, go call Rondo. I think Rondo would be an exceptional young coach, and I think the fan base would love him. And I just think he's been a coach on the floor as a point guard. He'd be a guy I would at least bring in an interview just to see how he does through the interview process and what his ideas are, where he thinks that the team could be better, what he could think he could bring to make the team better.
Couple more things before we wrap up the show. The Bears are going through their mandatory mini camp right now. One of the interesting storylines for me as somebody in the media, where you kind of look at what people say and try to read between the lines. Of course, the Bears drafted Colston Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan, in the first round. They had a good tight end already on the roster. They have one in Cole Kmet. And for the first time, Cole Kmet was put out in front of the microphones at Hallis Hall and was asked about how he felt. And it was an interesting session because he said, at first you're taking it back. That's my spot. Why would they feel the need to go out in the first round and draft a tight end? Then he said all the right things. A lot of teams are using 2 tight end formations. We should have plenty of opportunities for both of us. But then Ben Johnson got up and he said, well, we like Cole Kmet. He's really smart. He's a good teammate. He'll help the guys learn the offense. But never once did he say, he's a really good pass receiver and we're going to have a lot of plays designed to go to Cole Kmet. You kind of wonder if the handwriting's on the wall that there's this transition here. Cole Kmet's one of the really good guys from a media perspective. He's always available, really intelligent guy, tells you what's on his mind. But it's interesting. You've seen this in basketball where they bring in a new guy and the current guy gets phased out, and it's really kind of awkward for everybody.
Yeah, and, listen, Kmet is a very good tight end. They didn't use him last year.
No.
Which was surprising because you have a young quarterback. You think that guy would have been his security blanket. That's the guy he's going to go to when, they need 10 yards, 15 yards. He feels comfortable this guy's going to make a play. He didn't use Kmet that way. He used other receivers, and so that might have, Ben Johnson being on the outside looking in, it's like, okay, why are they not using the tight end? Why isn't this guy, is he good? What's the reason? Is he a good pass catcher? You don't know because you didn't see the production. But, the numbers are there when he catches the ball, when it's thrown to him. He catches everything they throw to him. They just didn't utilize him. And as big as he is, with the way the tight ends are used in NFL now, where they stretch the field, they're kind of like H-backs, where they can get out in the middle of the field and be wide receivers. This kid from Michigan, Loveland, ain't no joke. Okay, and I'm sure Ben Johnson's watched a lot of Michigan games.
And the comp has been to the tight end he had in Detroit, Florida.
Yes.
Everybody's saying that Loveland is exactly like this. You can put him in the slot. He can run the seam and get vertical. I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic to watch. Also, DeAndre Swift met the media, and he was a little bit prickly about, asking about, are you going to be the guy? He played for Ben Johnson in Detroit, and it's been pretty widely known that the Bears were looking at maybe drafting a running back and things didn't work out. Now Swift has got to prove himself all over again. So even though everyone's like, this is a honeymoon period with Ben Johnson, hey, athletes are going to compete for playing time, and there's not going to be, any talking about, I'll just do whatever. They're going to try to be starters.
Well, and the thing that Swift have to look at, they got a new offensive line, basically. He's going to be running behind some really good, blockers. So his production may go off the roof, because he's also a pass-catching running back. He's not just one-dimensional. He can run between the tackles. He can get outside. He can swing, get, screen passes. He can catch downfield. So he's going to be very valuable in this situation. I think now where they have to find out is where's that, thunder to lightning? Where's the guy that you can say, we need 3 tough yards right now? Montgomery from Detroit was that guy. Then, you had the other guy that was a home run hitter. So in Ben Johnson's offense, at least what we've seen in Detroit, it's always been a 2-back system. Mm-hmm. And so who will be that? If Swift is the lightning, who's the thunder?
There's still some free agent running backs out there that the Bears might kick the tires on before they get to training camp in about 6 weeks. One other thing I wanted to hit on, Stacey's got his Angels cap on. You know who's got the best record in the National League as of today on Wednesday?
Who?
Your Chicago Cubs have the best record in the National League. Not the Dodgers, not the Mets, the Chicago Cubs. How about that?
Well, how about those damn Cubs? You know what? I refuse to jump. Listen, America.
Stacey's just sticking one toe in the water. He's not in on it.
First of all, I'm a Chicago sports fan. I always like to see Chicago sports do well, okay? But I'm not going to jump in right now on them until I see where they are, right down the road. Last year they started off good and then they hit like a wall and then they crashed and burned. I don't know, man. I don't know.
One of the best offenses in baseball. The only thing I think is a real concern is with Shota Imanaga out of the rotation right now. He's got a hamstring injury. They're a little bit short with the starting rotation. That may come up to bite.
And might need to go out and get another closer.
Yeah.
Might need to go out and go. I heard Chapman's name being brought up again, bringing him back.
He's 100 years old,
but he still throws 100 miles an hour. Hey, as long as he throw that fastball, that's all. Hey, that's all I need to hear. You throw 100 miles an hour? Yeah, I'm taking
your
it.
current closer throws 100. Daniel,
we got 2 then. You need to go. You need to have 2, man. You got to have 2 because then when you get to that playoff series, you could bring one of them in for middle relief to throw a couple innings here and there to get you to the original closer. I'm thinking ahead, Mark.
And Stacey used to coach his kids in baseball. So
sure did.
This guy's not just talking like
no. I know the game. I had a nice squad too. I just want to throw that out there. We were ranked in the top 3 of the nation. I just want to throw that. Long Grove A's. I just want to shout out to the Long Grove A's. All my players who played under my tutelage. Shout out to you guys because the manager's only good as the players, baby. Okay, I had to bribe with some candy and some fruit snacks back in the day, but we were a hell of a team. Long Grove A's, baby. I love y'all boys.
Stacey's a man for all seasons. No question about it. You buying into the Cubs, Tim, or are you still a little bit have to be convinced?
Yeah, it's kind of like last year where I'm holding my breath, but especially with that rotation, they got to pick up some guys.
The thing that's different, though, I think they will be highly motivated to be aggressive at the deadline. Like Stacey mentioned, they may go on and get a closer and another frontline starter because they've got a pretty good minor league system they can trade from.
Yeah, right in the beginning when they lost Steele, it was kind of like,
yeah,
they've held up.
And they've overcome that, which is pretty amazing. So. And Imanaga's missed 5 turns in the rotation so far. They brought up this kid from Iowa, Cade Horton. They won every game he's pitched, so they haven't missed a beat to this point.
Yeah, but
it's a long season.
It's a long season, and there are stretches in this season where injuries are going to pop up, and you just hope it's not something that's going to derail the momentum that they have. So you almost have to be ready and ask yourself, okay, listen, do we got a team that can challenge for the World Series? Is this a year that we got that team?
And the National League's loaded with the Dodgers, the Mets, and the Phillies are all top.
And Ohtani's getting ready to go back on the mound.
Yes, he is.
He's getting ready. When he go back on the mound, that's like they just picked up 2 players. they picked up 2 world-class players. So I'm telling you, man, like if you're the Cubs and you feel like this team can do it, and this is the year, you might have to go out and spend some money and go get some guys.
The one thing that's been fun, though, is watching. It's always fun when young guys burst on the scene. And this Pete Crow Armstrong is so much fun to watch. In the game last night, we're taping on Wednesday. In Tuesday's game, he stole third. Then he made them freeze on a ground ball because he was dancing between third and home. The kid's got 15 homers and 21 stolen bases. He's the 4th fastest to ever reach those marks. And the funny thing is that they made this trade for him a few years ago. They traded Javier Baez, who was running near the end of his contract, for a little-known prospect named Pete Crow Armstrong. And now Javi used to be considered the most exciting player in the game. Now PCA is kind of considered that. It's just weird, the cycle, and how when you trade for prospects, doesn't always work out, but sometimes you strike gold.
And this weekend they play in Detroit.
Playing the Tigers, yeah. And Javi's been playing some outfield.
Yeah.
because they've had some injuries out there. So he's been playing some center field. He's actually hitting again, which is good to see because he had a couple of really tough years in Detroit.
Well, and that's why it's if you're going to trade those kind of players, you got to make sure you're getting good prospects back. Because it's a gamble. And especially you look at the Cubs when they got rid of all their main guys, Rizzo and all these guys. You're like, okay, how are they going to replace that? Because those guys were still technically young. They weren't like old guys at the end of their career. They were still technically young and still had a lot of baseball left. But they're all playing. So but now they went out and got these prospects are starting to grow, and now their farm system looks really, really good. Because at one point their farm system stunk. They gave up all their
they were win now.
Yes, because you got Soriano who couldn't move. He was out there like he was on traffic cones. He was like,
what was his shuttle run time?
Yeah, what was his shuttle run time? They playing second base. He couldn't move. I was like, oh, man, I can go out there and play second base faster than him. Come on, man. Y'all got rid of all your prospects for him. Oh, Lord help me, Jesus.
So, you'll know that the Cubs have made it when Stacey walks in here with his Cub hat on. And then we know that they're in good shape.
We're over the hump.
we're on the backstretch, baby. Oh, Seabiscuit is coming home, baby.
Final thing before we wrap it up, it's our regular feature. What are we watching? Tim, what do you got?
Novocaine.
Oh,
how was that? I saw the trailers
for
it.
It's a dark comedy. But,
yeah.
But I actually really enjoyed it. Very entertaining. And the death scenes, you'll be laughing so hard. The way they kill some people off in this thing, it is absolutely.
That's my guy, Dennis Quaid's son. Dennis Quaid's son, Jack Quaid.
Yeah. It was great. It's just one of those good, grab a bucket of popcorn and have some laughs. Because if you like that kind of stuff, these death scenes, how he ends up killing people.
Wasn't he the guy on The Boys?
Yeah, he's on The Boys. Yeah.
He plays a very similar character, a little sheepish, and he's like, "Oh shit, I didn't mean to stab you in the eyeball."
That's right up your alley, Tim. That's a strong one.
Yeah.
Stacey, what do you got?
I checked out Sinners this week, and I was impressed because I like vampire movies, and you see right there, Sinners dance with the devil. They were dancing with a lot of devils in that movie. But it was a good movie. It's a very good movie. Michael B. Jordan. There's a lot of good cast out there. It's worth seeing if you like those kind of movies.
And Michael B. Jordan's growth as an actor has been fun to watch. At first he came in as Apollo Creed's son and, kind of typecast in the sports movie roles, but he's stepped into some really serious stuff, which is great to see for an actor. I think that's going to speak well for his future.
Well, he stayed with the same director, Ryan Coogler. The Black Panther. He had a movie. How was that movie? The African American kid got killed in Oakland at the train station. Oh my God. Oh, but it was a great freaking movie. But he's had all these these great hits, and Michael B. Jordan has been part of like most of them.
And you see that with a lot of actors. They start out like Tom Hanks was typecast as this like buddy comedy kind of guy, and then did all these serious roles, and that shows really a lot of growth as an actor. One show I know that we've all been watching has been Mobland on Paramount Plus. It wrapped up its first season. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to wreck it for people, but there's a whole lot of shit going down in the finale.
I'm going to tell you something. Listen, man, I wasn't expecting all that.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting all that.
Oh, yeah,
they got a lot done in that. Yeah, and it didn't feel rushed.
No.
It covered everything. That's one thing I liked about this show is that they don't have you guessing. You're wondering what's going to happen, but they cover everything that kind of points in the direction that's going to happen.
And Tom Hardy is so good playing the double agent role and manipulating everybody on the board.
Yes. Yeah, he man, that dude, I'm going to tell you something, is an amazing actor. He's an amazing actor, dude. I knew once he was in there, I'm like, okay, that's my show. I'm watching this.
And they're going to have a feature film remake of The Untouchables. He's going to be in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's coming out into theaters. So
I hope he's Elliot Ness. I don't want somebody else to be Elliot Ness.
Yeah, I think he is. I saw.
They need to come back out with Rock and Roller, like part 2. That was a hell of a movie with Gerard Butler, Idris Elba, Tom Hardy was in there, a young Tom Hardy. If you have never seen Rock and Roller, check that movie out. It's an awesome movie. You seen it?
I haven't seen it.
It's an awesome movie. Awesome movie. And these guys were all like, this is like before they became like super, super famous. This is like, it was an English movie, and it's about mobs, and it's an awesome movie. Awesome. And these guys are all together. Hardy, Idris Elba, and Jared Butler. They run like a little scam, They scamming people here, scamming people. They're real small time crooks, but they get into the big time, you know. And then they find out they got the Russian mob, you got the English mob. There's all this crazy stuff going on. And then you got double agents. You got guys that are working with the feds, and they follow. What's the other guy's name? Mark Stone, who's in there, is another good actor, English actor. It's a great movie. Check out Rock and Roller. There you go, right there, baby.
Way to go, Cisco.
Oh yeah, Cisco.
Cisco's been great on the graphics. You know, we didn't even talk about draft prep. He just
listen. You know what?
Stats up there.
Listen, man. You know, it takes everybody here. You know, Cisco.
We appreciate everybody.
You know, Cisco, when he first came here, he was a little baby. You know, he came here with a little tight shirt from Mount Prospect, a little gym shirt. It was so tight, you could see his heartbeat. You know, he was wearing tight shorts. You know, now he's gotten hip. Now he's got long hair. He doesn't even look like the little kid that came in here.
Yeah.
He's shaving. I mean, look at he looks good. He got girls. He's got girls coming to the studio. We need to see Cisco. You know, so he's grown and developed. Shout out to Cisco. Shout out to my man Nick.
Yeah,
Nick is here too.
We want to congratulate Nick. He graduated from Loyola
after 10 years.
He's been handling our social media, doing a great job, putting together all his stuff. I guess we had like 2 million views on our Bill Cartwright.
Yes. Hey, I'm telling you, man, he does all the shorts for us on our YouTube channel, man. Gets out all the stuff, letting you know the guests are coming on. Does a great job for us. Very talented young man. You know, again, after spending 10 years in college, he should be. But very versatile. Very versatile. We got a really good. Yeah. We a lot of these guys we brought up from from college. You know, we got from Harper College. They came from Harper, and they were students at Harper. Yeah. And you know, shout out to D. You know, who's not here, Dangerous D.
Family man.
He got baby. You know, he should have been soaking, but he didn't. And
oh no! Oh no!
Hey!
Wow!
Wow!
Yes.
That's my guy, though, D.
The end of the show. It
Maddie,
always happens.
Maddie, shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Maddie out there.
Yeah.
You know, Maddie works for us on the down low. She helps us out doing some stuff.
She's gonna help us this weekend.
Talk about this weekend. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Talk about this weekend.
So we're doing Rib Fest there in off of Lake. Whatever corner that is, but you'll find it online.
Rib Fest
downtown, and so Friday 5 to 10, and Saturday and Sunday.
Best hot sauce in the business.
So listen, America, if you ain't got nothing to do this weekend, come on out to the Rib Fest. We're gonna have all our hot sauces out there for you to buy and try. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I don't know if I'm gonna be out there all those hours, but I'm gonna try. Tim, Whispers will be there, baby.
Oh, yeah, thanks a lot.
Tim's used to manning the booths at all his trade shows.
He'll be out there, baby. He'll be out there, baby.
Just look for the guy that's glowing red.
We got some help. We got some help at the booth.
Oh yeah, we've got lots of help.
Okay, good.
Or it'll just be empty.
Oh. we asked Cisco last week. Hey, Cisco, man, you want to come work the booth? No. It was so quick. It was so quick. I was like, damn, I didn't even get to finish to tell him that we were gonna pay you.
Well, Cisco's finishing up work on his degree. He's going to graduate from DePaul a week from Saturday, so congratulations to Cisco.
I got to tell you, hey, man, listen, that's awesome. Yeah. Both these kids graduating, you know, Nick in 10 and Cisco in 8. It's amazing.
They're going to be getting big, high-paying jobs and kicking us to the curb.
Hey, you know what? Hey, listen, that is true. Talent, talent, you can't keep talent down, man. The cream always rises to the top.
So congratulations to those guys, and we appreciate everybody who watches and listens. Make sure to like and subscribe, and hey, tell your friends. There's a great show they want to check out. Give me the hot sauce.
Hey, make sure you go check out our shorts and on YouTube. Go to our YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. It tells you what we got coming on. You get to see the show if you didn't get to see the show. We replay the show there. So we got a lot of stuff going on. So check us out.
Yeah, not Shaq shorts. We're talking about YouTube shorts. That's an all-time scene.
Yeah, hey, listen. Shaq was squeezing them cheeks, boy. Hey, he's getting ready to blow on television, baby. And that would have been a sight. Oh, man. They'd had to come on with a blank screen.
Windshield wipers.
Oh, my God.
With that image in your heads, it's time to say goodbye. Thanks for watching. We'll have a new show coming at you next week as we talk about the start of the finals between the Pacers and Thunder.
Drive home safely, Chicago. Beat.
He didn't come for the massage, he came for the facial. Don't zoom on. Does anybody know how to post videos to Facebook? There's a block party, Mike. Did he get the invitation? That's a huge three. Mustard. Lonzo left alone. Gimme. Sauce. Able to
never have been that corner. That's the last time I'm going to say it. Williams straight on. Giant.